sweet friends. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Children's Church. I brought a special friend to Children's Church today because she hasn't got to come see us in a while. So, Pastor Monica is with us today, and we're very thankful that she joined us for Children's Church today. So today we get to do our second lesson, Pastor Monica. And this week, this past Sunday in Children's Church, at church, we learned about Adam and Eve and the creation story. And we also learned about how that sneaky little thing called sin entered into our world and what we can do about it and ways we can prevent ourselves from sinning. Because nobody's perfect, but we have to try our best, right?
Right.
So, y'all want to quiz Pastor Monica a little bit? I think we should. I think we should see how smart she is. Do you think so? Okay. What book of the Bible is the creation story in, Pastor Monica?
Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis.
Genesis is the very first book of the Bible, and that's where they talk about the creation story. Now, there was a man and a woman there, but before the man and the woman were there, something else was there, and who was that? God. God was there from the very beginning. And after he created all the things, he made the man and then the woman, and the man and the woman were?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. And he put them in a very special place.
The Garden of Eden.
The Garden of Eden. That's where they lived. And they were very happy there. But then some sneaky things started to happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, we have a little story we're going to tell out of our lesson book, but I have a job for you. Okay? When I say Adam and I point at you, I want you to flex your muscle like a big manly man and ugh. And when I say Eve, I want you to flick.
Have no hair.
Very girly, but it's okay. You can still flick it. And when I talk about the snake, though, you've got to.
I can do that.
So let's hear what happened in the garden. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
God had planted a garden in Eden, and there were 2 trees in the middle of the garden. One of them had fruit that let people live forever, and the other had fruit that let people tell the difference between good and evil. And God put Adam in the Garden of Eden and gave him a command. And God told them, "You may eat fruit from any tree in the garden, but do not eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you do, you will surely die." Then God made a woman, Adam and Eve, lived in the garden in perfect fellowship with God. But one day, the clever snake spoke to Eve. And the snake said, "Did God really say you must not eat fruit from any tree in the garden?" And Eve said, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did tell us not to eat the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden. If we do, we'll die." And the snake said, "You will not die. God knows that when you eat fruit from that tree, you'll know things you have never known before. You'll be like God. You'll be able to tell the difference between good and evil." Eve saw that the tree's fruit looked good. She also saw that it would make a person wise. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. And she also gave some to Adam. And he ate it. Then both of them knew things they had never known before. Then Adam and Eve heard God walking in the garden, and they hid. And God said, "Where are you?" Adam heard him and told God, "I was afraid, so I hid." And God asked him, "Have you eaten fruit from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" And Adam said, "It's the fault of the woman you put here with me. She gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." And God asked Eve, "What have you done?" And Eve said, "That snake tricked me. That's why I ate the fruit." So God cursed the snake. And then God said to the snake, "You will crawl on your belly. I will make you the enemy of God's people." And God also cursed Adam and Eve. He told them, "You must leave the garden, and now you will live in a world that has evil and sin in it." Because Adam and Eve sinned, they could no longer live closely with God. Because of our sin, as Pastor Monica knows, and you guys we've talked about before, we are also separated from God. But guess what, Pastor Monica?
What?
There's good news.
Really?
That was kind of a stressful story, right?
It is. It's a
Not
tough
really.
story.
It's a tough story.
Not a good, happy ending
No.
right there.
But there is a happy ending in the end because
That's
you know
good.
why?
What?
Because God made us a promise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that promise is?
Well, I mean that he would send Jesus.
That he would send Jesus. And through Jesus, we can be forgiven for our sins and we can live in closeness with God again when we accept Jesus into our hearts and we live to be Christ-like. And I think that's some pretty awesome news, don't you?
I think it's the best news ever.
So, one more question to see how smart Pastor Monica is. Are y'all ready? So, in the story,
Mm-hmm.
there was a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a snake. But who actually is that snake? Do we know?
Yeah, it's evil. It's
It's
the
evil.
evil one.
Mhm.
It's just a symbol for all the evil there is.
Yes, it is. Now, I have a question, Pastor Monica. A little make-believe story that might help us understand this a little bit better. Because I never mean to sin, do you?
Oh no.
I never intentionally just go, oh, I think I'm going to do something bad today that'll hurt others. Do you do that?
No.
No. So let's have a little story. Let's pretend that you're 5. Is that okay?
I would love to be 5.
You're 5, okay. And you play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the goalie.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a really good goalie.
Mhm.
And your team depends on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you live in a house with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And your mama has flowers outside that are so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And you love these flowers. And you would love to pick these flowers and bring them in your house and make a beautiful bouquet. But your mom told you not to pick the flowers and bring them in the house because your brother, he has an allergy to flowers. And if he gets around them or they get in the house, he gets sneezy and gets watery eyes and itchy, and it's just no good. So one Saturday morning, you went outside and picked some flowers because you really wanted them. And you brought them in the house, and guess what happened?
What?
Your brother got sick. He got the itchy, watery eyes, the sneezes, all that stuff. And your dad realized what happened, and your brother needed some medicine to make it go away, but you were out at the house. And you were supposed to be at your soccer game at 10. But because you had brought the flowers in the house and made your brother get the itchy, watery eyes and the sneezy, Dad had to stop on the way and to get some medicine. So you were late for your soccer game. And since you weren't there, somebody else had to play goalie.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they tried their best, very, very best, they weren't able to stop the goals. And your team that depended on you so much lost the game. Now, not that anybody's perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. But in the end, whose fault kind of is it that your team lost the game?
That other goalie that's not very good.
No, not so much. Not so much, Pastor Monica.
My brother for being allergic to
No,
flowers.
no, he really can't help that. He was just born that way. I know.
My dad for taking him to the store before taking me to soccer.
No, because your daddy was trying to be a good parent and help your brother.
Well, then that leaves me for picking the flowers and taking them inside, even though I knew I shouldn't do it, but they were really pretty and I wanted to make them look pretty in the house.
Yes. And isn't that, now let me ask you this, when you picked those flowers, did you ever in a million years think that that would lead to you letting your team down?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. You didn't intentionally let your team down.
No, and I didn't intentionally make my brother sick.
And you didn't intentionally make your brother sick, but did you know that in the very beginning picking the flowers were wrong?
Yes.
Yes. And that's the really hard thing about sin sometimes, because sometimes we think it's really not a big deal. And maybe that one simple thing by itself is not a really big deal. But the dangerous thing about sin is sometimes it can cause a lot of other things to happen, especially when you get to be a big person like me and Pastor Monica. That can cause a lot of consequences that we don't want to do we?
Mm-hmm.
So even though nobody's perfect, we're all going to make mistakes. I don't know about Pastor Monica, but even as I get older, I still make mistakes, even though I try my very best. And that's why there's grace. Thank God for that. But we do have to try our best to think about what we do before we do it.
Yeah.
And if you do, that really tends to help you stay away from those negative consequences. Don't you think so?
I agree.
I think so. So, I think we had a pretty good lesson today.
I did too.
I think Pastor Monica might have enjoyed being silly with Miss Nicole a little bit
I
too.
love being here.
Miss Nicole likes her job for a lot of reasons, but one of them is because she gets to be silly, and it's okay. Because I love to be silly, don't you?
I
Now,
do.
since Pastor Monica is here with us, I think it would be great if she helped us close in prayer today. Do you think so? Okay, so let's close our talking mouths, open our listening ears, close our eyes, fold our hands, and bow our heads. And Pastor Monica is going to help pray us out.
Dear God, thank you for giving us forgiveness and grace when we sin. Thank you for giving us Jesus to bring us that grace and forgiveness when we sin. Lord, help us to do better each and every day, to follow the rules and the suggestions and the ways that we're supposed to be, because we want to be more like Jesus each and every day. And all God's children said,
Amen. And 1, 2, 3, God bless me and you. And we will see you next time, my friends. Bye.